So, what if I told you that numbers have these secret meeting points? Places where their patterns just sync up perfectly. Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore today with lowest common multiples, or LCMs for short. And trust me, this isn't just about some boring math problems. It's about finding the hidden rhythm in numbers. Let's jump right in. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get down the absolute basics. What in the world are multiples? Then, we'll figure out how to find where they overlap. After that, we're going to zero in on the most important one, the lowest common multiple. We'll walk through an example together, step by step, and finally, we'll put on our detective hats and learn to think like a real mathematician. All right, first things first, what exactly is a multiple? We got to understand these before we can do anything else. Think of them as the building blocks for this whole idea. So a multiple is just the result you get when you multiply a number by any whole number. By 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is this. It's just a numbers times table. Simple as that. Let's take the number 4, for example. What are its multiples? Well, you've got 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, then 12, 16, 20, and that list just keeps on going forever. It's really that straightforward. Okay, so we've got multiples down, no problem. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Let's see what happens when the patterns of two different numbers start to meet. So let's ask a question. We know the multiples of 4, right? But what happens when we throw the number 6 into the mix? Where do their paths actually cross? So here's our list for 4 again. 4, 8, 12, 16, and on and on. Now keep those bolded numbers, 12, 24, 36, in the back of your mind for just a second. And now let's lay out the multiples for 6. We have 6, then 12, 18, 24, and wait a second. There it is. Do you see it? The numbers 12, 24, and 36, they're in both lists. These are our meeting points. These numbers that they share are called, you guessed it, common multiples. It makes perfect sense, right? They're the numbers that belong to both the 4 times table and the 6 times table. Now we get to the star of the show. Because among all those common multiples, there's one that's extra special. We're on the hunt for the very first meeting point. This brings us to our big idea, the lowest common multiple, or LCM. For 4 and 6, the LCM is 12. And it's named perfectly. It's just the lowest number out of all those common ones we found. So that number 12, that's the one we really care about. It's the smallest number that is a multiple of both 4 and 6. It's their first and most important point of connection. Okay, that's enough theory. I think we've got it down. Now let's get our hands dirty and put it into practice with a brand new example. All right, here's our new challenge. We need to find the lowest common multiple of 6 and 10. And the great news is the process is exactly the same. It's a super simple 3-step plan. We're going to list the multiples of 6, then we'll list the multiples of 10, and then we just scan both lists and find the very first match. Easy. Let's do it. So the multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Okay, let's stop there for a sec. Now for 10, we have 10, 20, 30, and boom, there it is. The first number to show up on both lists is 30. So the LCM of 6 and 10 is 30. See how that works? Okay, now for my favorite part. This is where we go beyond just following steps. Let's put on our mathematician's hats and investigate a tempting idea, a potential shortcut, and see if there's a trap. So here's the big question. If you have any two numbers, let's just call them A and B, can you just multiply them together to find their LCM? I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? Is it really that easy? Well, let's test it. Let's try it for 4 and 7. Okay, 4 times 7 is 28. And yep, the LCM is 28. So far, so good, it works. But hold on, let's try it for our last example, 6 and 10. 6 times 10 is 60. But wait a minute, we just proved their LCM is 30. Uh-oh, the shortcut failed. So what gives? Here's the key. Multiplying two numbers together will always give you a common multiple. That part is true. 60, for example, is definitely a multiple of both 6 and 10. No doubt about it. But, and this is the huge but, it is not always the lowest common multiple. See, it gives you a meeting point, but it's not guaranteed to give you the first one. And that's why this little shortcut can get you into trouble. And this, right here, is what it really means to think like a mathematician. You don't just accept a rule that seems easy. You test it, You poke holes in it, you find out where it breaks, and, more importantly, why it breaks. The listing method we learned might take a second longer, but it's reliable because you are actively looking for that lowest value. You have to check. So, to wrap this all up, I want to leave you with a little brain teaser. Let's flip the problem on its head. If I tell you the answer, the LCM is 30, what could the two original numbers have been? We already know one pair is 6 and 10, but are there any others? Give that some thought. It's a great way to test if you've really got this down. Thanks so much for hanging out and exploring this with me. Keep looking for those hidden connections in the numbers all around you.